So, have you seen this thing blowing up online called Project Anchor? It's this absolutely wild story about a secret NASA program, a global catastrophe, the whole shebang. Today, we're going to break down exactly what this viral hoax is all about. All right, let's just get right to it. The big, scary question that's probably all over your social media feeds. Is the Earth's gravity literally going to switch off for 7 seconds on August 12th, 2026? I know, it sounds like something straight out of a disaster movie, but a ton of people are seriously wondering if this is real. Okay, so let's dive into the story itself, because to understand why it's a hoax, you first have to see how it's put together. And honestly, it's kind of a masterclass in how to make complete fiction sound like a terrifying fact. So the whole thing starts with this claim that a top-secret NASA document got leaked, and this document supposedly predicts something they call a gravitational discontinuity event. Fancy words, right? But what it means is simple. Gravity just stops for 7 seconds. Everything and everyone would just start floating, only to come crashing back down when it snaps back on. And this is where it starts to get really clever. The story doesn't just say there's a secret plan. No, it gives you a number. An $89 billion budget for a global program to deal with this, complete with underground bunkers and special tethers. You see, putting a very specific number like that in a story just makes it feel so much more real. And then it gets genuinely chilling. This fake document reportedly uses the phrase acceptable losses and puts the number somewhere between 8 and 900 million people. That's the kind of cold, bureaucratic language that's designed to sound exactly like something from a classified government report. And man, is it effective at making you feel scared. But here's the real masterstroke. This is how the hoax hooks itself into the real world. The cause? Oh, it's explained away with some science-y jargon about colliding black holes sending out massive gravitational waves. And the date? August 12th, 2026? That wasn't picked out of a hat. That's the actual date of a real, verifiable total solar eclipse. Mixing your fiction with a hard fact like that, that's the secret sauce for making a lie believable. Okay, so the story is a lot. It's dramatic, it's scary, but what does actual physics say about any of this? Let's switch gears and look at the real science, and you'll see how this whole thing just completely falls apart. First, let's go back to high school physics for a second. What even is gravity? Well, it's a fundamental force that's generated by mass. The Earth has gravity because the Earth is, a giant ball of rock and metal. For our planet to suddenly lose its gravity, you'd have to somehow make its entire mass, the core, the oceans, everything just disappear. And if that happened, trust me, a 7-second float would be the least of our problems. Now, the hoax tries to blame this on gravitational waves from black holes. And look, gravitational waves are a real thing. They're ripples in space-time. It's amazing stuff. But it's all about scale. By the time those waves get to us from deep space, they are so unbelievably faint. They stretch and squeeze space by an amount that is smaller than the width of a single proton. They are just way, way, way too weak to have any noticeable effect on a planet's gravity. And really, at the end of the day, the scientific consensus on this is crystal clear. It's unanimous. You ask NASA, you ask any independent physicist, they'll all tell you the same thing. Based on everything we understand about the universe, there is simply no known way, no physical mechanism that could just turn a planet's gravity off and on like a light switch, period. So, okay, if the science is such a slam dunk no, then how in the world did this completely baseless story get so huge? Well, that's the next and maybe most interesting part of this whole thing. We're going to look at the anatomy of how this hoax went viral. This story wasn't born in a lab or some secret government office. It was born on social media. It started pretty small, with simple text slides on Instagram. Then people remixed it into short video edits for TikTok and started reposting it on Facebook. And then creators on platforms like YouTube grabbed that core rumor and built these elaborate documentary-style stories around it. And of course, every single share, every comment, every view was a signal to the algorithm saying, hey, people love this stuff, so the platforms showed it to millions more. And when you look closely, you see these things follow a predictable formula, a kind of recipe for misinformation. Step 1, start with a scary, attention-grabbing headline. Step 2, add those precise, official-sounding numbers and dates we talked about. Step 3, sprinkle in some scientific terms that people have probably heard before, like gravitational waves. And the final step, anchor the whole thing to a real event you can look up, like that 2026 solar eclipse. It's an incredibly powerful formula. But here's the thing, and this is really important. The best, most effective hoaxes are rarely 100% made up. They almost always grab onto a tiny little kernel of truth, or in this case, a real scientific mystery. So let's look at the actual unknowns about gravity that give these stories such fertile ground to grow in. It might actually surprise you to hear this, but on the deepest, most fundamental level, we still don't really know what gravity is. We're incredible at describing how it behaves, thank you, Newton and Einstein, but what the actual stuff of gravity is made of, it's still a huge mystery. And that little gap in our knowledge, that's where stories like this take root and grow. And Project Anchor is so clever because it pulls from a whole history of both real science and fringe ideas. It's like a greatest hits of weirdness. It borrows from real, if obscure, research from the 1950s into electrogravitics, the idea of using electricity to mess with gravity. It taps into disputed claims about superconductors causing things to lose weight, and then it dives right into famous UFO lore, from stories about a mystery element 115 that can power alien ships to the bizarre, physics-defying movements of those tic-tac UFOs. By weaving all these threads together, the story makes itself feel like it's part of some bigger hidden truth. So, knowing all that, how do we stop ourselves from falling for the next one? Because there will be a next one. This is the most important part. Let's build a simple, hoax-proof toolkit you can use to stay grounded. It really just comes down to 3 easy steps. First, search. Before you even think about sharing, just search for the claim plus words like hoax, debunked, or fact check. Second, check the source. Is this information on NASA's actual website? Are any major universities talking about it? If the only place you're seeing it is on social media, that is a huge red flag. And third, and this is maybe the biggest one, listen for the silence. A real threat that could kill 900 million people would have official warnings on every TV channel, every radio station. The fact that the story is only on TikTok, that's the best clue it isn't real. So yeah, Project Anchor is a fake story. But it's important because it's a perfect case study in how fear and bad information can spread like wildfire online. The tricks they used here? They're going to be used again. So the real takeaway isn't about gravity in 2026. It's about being ready for the next story that tries to suck you in. The next viral hoax is already on its way. The only question is, are you ready for it?